Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin from Florals.com and today we are going into my go-to design series as part of the Falling Back to Basics series that I started on my channel here in September, and it'll go through November. So if you haven't subscribed already, definitely do so you guys can see everything in this series and you don't miss anything. So for this go-to design series, I want to first go through one of my favorite designs, or one of my go-to designs, if you will, and then later I'm going to do process videos for these. So if you're interested in seeing how I make these layouts, how I come up with this design, you know, with different photos, that will be coming next week. But for now, we're just going to talk about this type of design. As you already know from the title of this video, we're going over the L-shaped design this week. Now, I'm not sure this is a common design or just something I call differently than everyone else, but essentially I often find that I'm in the pickle of having one vertical photo and one horizontal photo. And when you put those together, it makes an L shape. So I called it that because I often have that issue when I'm scrapbooking something. I print one of each size, and then it leads to issues with fitting on a page. I also often have square photos, which you can see in this example, but essentially what happens in this is the photos make up the general design of the page. Sometimes the embellishments branch out from that and still create the L. So here you can see this one's more of a T since it goes past this photo here, but essentially it's a 90-degree angle of embellishments of photos, and then often filling in the blank space up here with something. It's something I definitely do a lot more than I'd say I'd like to, but again, when I'm faced with one horizontal and one vertical, that's just what ends up happening. I want to keep them together but not too far away from each other, and they just naturally create that L shape. So if you're someone who has that same problem, or you like multi-photo layouts, so you could stack two and then do one, which we'll have some other examples as well, but a majority of these are 2-photo layouts, and that is something that I do very, very frequently, is 2-photo layouts. The occasional 3 fits into the L, and you could easily do the L shape with a 1-photo layout as well, but I don't think I have any examples. I did go through all of my albums to try to pull out as many examples as I could, which took a very, very long time, and I tried to pull out ones that you haven't seen before, at least in a while, but I'm pretty sure almost all of these have process videos somewhere on the internet, whether it's my channel or a design team channel I used to be on, and I can try to link some more down below, but if you just search the title on my channel, you'll be able to find the process video associated with it. So this is my first example. Pretty solid L here, and very self-explanatory if you ask me. I added a lot more detail around here that makes it look less L, but the main design, if I took out these doilies, it would be very modular shaped, and doilies are a great way to add something in that's not as modular if you find yourself in a pickle like that. This one's a little bit different, which is why I included it in the top. This is L shape, as you can tell, but it doesn't have a hard right corner where an L usually would. It's sort of diagonal in a way, but I didn't include diagonal designs in my go-to design series. However, it is one. I thought this would be a great example of L, where you have the title, you know, finishing off that L shape. And again, one vertical, one horizontal. It happens much more often than I'd like it to, and I also find that my photos have not been sticking to their pages nearly as well as I thought they had been while going through all my albums during this process. But this is a good one. Again, I added doilies to give it a non-modular feel. Sequins really help also give it more of an organic feel, so it's not as blocky. But that's one example, and I have about 10 to 15 examples. I'm not exactly sure how many, but hopefully this helps you guys out. Again, I find I do this design a lot and I don't find other people doing it a lot, so I'm wondering if it's just a me thing or if it's common to have one vertical, one horizontal photo. This one's one of my favorites. This was for Wild Whisper Designs, and as you can see here, we did a L this way instead of this way, which I normally do. And again, not too many embellishments. The photos really drive the L shape. And while I could have put the title down here more, it is floating up here, which again doesn't go with the L shape, but the photos drive the shape in this case. And these are repetitive photos of the same building, so you really get that, you know, solidity and continuity with this L bracket shape. I mean, if I turn it this way, it's an L. And that's what I really like about this design, I think, is that it works in a multitude of ways. I often do this way or the you know, the reverse version this way, but it could go up here and down here. It's really just a 90-degree angle, which I guess I could have called it that, but it goes like this, and that is it. I know a lot of people might call this, I think Janet calls it happy horizontal, where the paper layers are what determine the design, but I really like the photos to determine the design of the page, and then the paper is just the accent. So I would consider this an L design, the cluster built off of that, and then the title just tucks in right there. And I often, you know, do this with one horizontal, one vertical. So here we are again, one vertical, one horizontal, and that's what we ended up with. And again, something to add some organic shape here so it doesn't feel as blocky is very important, because I know we often get in that phase. This one again is kind of, it's an L shape, but it's a harder L shape to determine. I really think these helped create that L shape, these extra banners, and this cluster up here helps bring that in. Or you could even think it was here. This one's more of a cluster with a bracket off of it, but I still get the L-shaped feeling off of this one. And my stickers are falling off. I need to trim that one. This is for my DC album, and I definitely have a process video on this one. This one's less apparent in L versus the other ones. And like I said, we'll do some process videos later for this design. Next week you'll see some, and it'll be really exciting to do those. So this is another L, except it goes this way. Like I said, very versatile. It's essentially the photos determining the L shape based on their format, because otherwise it'd be very hard to get anything on this page. But again, we have some multi-photo examples later, or more than 2 photos, I guess I should say. Really simple. The clusters really grab onto it. Again, there's a little cluster up here, but that doesn't, you know, hurt anybody. The more I look at it, the more it's easier to identify the pattern, which again, not all of my go-to designs are based on the photo placements. Some are based on the embellishment placements, so we'll go over that in the other ones. But this is just something I find myself drawn to over and over and over again. 2 photos, one vertical, one horizontal, that are butt up against each other for the most part. Obviously I have examples that aren't, and they just make that bracketed shape, and then everything falls into place after that, which you'll see in the process video as well. And if you're interested in seeing real-time process videos, I will be having the real-time process videos for the Go-To Design series over on my Patreon, so you guys can check those out if you're interested. And hopefully you guys are really excited for more process videos, because I know some of you were afraid that I wouldn't be doing as many process videos because of the series, but there's more coming. This one's hard to determine. It's an L shape. It definitely could be a block design or something else, but the photos just make this L, which I think a lot of people don't often do or don't often think about doing, one vertical and one horizontal. But guys, it works beautifully on so many layouts. And this one's a bit busier. You can kind of see the extra layers back here really help build out that patterns. But overall, this one's not nearly as much L as the other ones are. So if you just take your hand, make an L. Does it go this way? Does it go this way? Does it go this way? There's so many different options. Again, with this one, not nearly as much of an L with the photos because we have a square photo, but your eye goes like this across the page. You know, this is how everything's formatted in this 90-degree shape. Also could be considered a T since we have this across and this down. I think L and T go hand in hand mainly because it's easy to go past an L, you know, and build out past the 90-degree spot. So this one I'd almost consider a T, but I think T and L go very well together and sort of mimic each other in that way. So we have an L shape here. And this one, the title actually helps create that band for the other L. Fun. This one's a little bit less of an L. It's more of a, so I would say the L goes this way because this is the longer format and then this is the short one. But this time it's 2 vertical photos, one 3x4, one 4x6. But we still have that thanks to the embellishment cluster flowing this way and then one flowing up this way. And it's a little bit out of focus because of the shine of this paper. But as you can tell, this band helps navigate that L, and then this helps solidify that the L goes up this way so you can kind of flow across the page in this manner. Some people would say this is diagonal, which again, really up to interpretation and your style and what you want to call it. This definitely could be a diagonal, but again, I didn't include that in my Go-To Design series list. However, I do find myself doing that sometimes, so there's that one. Here's one that's 3 photos. I think this is the only one I have that's 3 photos. But essentially this one is a right angle, and it's not, this does not go here. A green embellishment on a yellow and blue layout. We'll define where that goes. But as you can tell here, the title's in the center of the page, but since we have the photos like this, and we also have this, which really helps build that out a little bit, gives it that pop that you need to really elongate this section. I could have easily tucked these underneath a little bit more, so off to the left, to really make that L, but I really like how it is right now with the 2 varying sides, or corners if you will. So this also be considered diagonal, but if you often find that your diagonals aren't super diagonal, like if this was just these 2 photos without this one, I think this would be diagonal, but since we have this 3rd photo, I really think it wraps around into an L. But let me know what you guys think. Is this a made-up design that I'm categorizing as something else, or is this real? Is that a real question? I don't know. This one's also diagonal in a way, but if you look at it this way, so if we look, this is filled in, this is filled in, I would consider an L-shaped layout. So if we turn it around so I can make the finger, it goes this way, and then you have some white space here, which could be journaling, so then it'd be really filled in. So then is it an L? I don't know. Because guys, designs are all whatever you make them. It's however you perceive them. It's up to you. This is a Wild Whisper layout that I have here. And I'd say it's an L. At least I pulled it out at the time when I was doing this and thinking it was an L. But up to you guys to determine that for yourselves. If you like this layout, 1 vertical, 1 horizontal. And if you find yourself with 1 vertical, 1 horizontal, I think you'll find yourself doing this type of layout with an L-shaped. I think this is our last one, and this is one of the most recent ones. There are a couple from the Summer Story series in there, but this is one of the most recent. Do we see the L? Now, it'd be really an L if I put this cluster up here, which I totally could have, but in the effort of visual triangles, I didn't, because then that would be a right triangle. And I think that's something to note too, that some of these are right triangle clusters. And I know we haven't gone over visual triangles yet, but we will. This one doesn't work nearly as well for that example, but you have sequence here, sequence here, sequence here. And that makes a right angle triangle. Whereas this one, not a right angle triangle. You can see we have snowflake, snowflake, snowflake. Just a, you know, an acute triangle if we want to get technical about it. But I consider this an L shape, mainly because 1 vertical photo, 1 horizontal photo. Now there are some that I picked out for other series or for other go-to designs that have 1 vertical, 1 horizontal that aren't L-shaped. So don't worry, it's not just because it's the photos. It's just the natural flow of the layout. I usually figure this out after I've created the layout, whether it's L-shaped or not. I don't often go into a page thinking it'll be L-shaped or not. I simply lay the photos onto the background paper that I want, and they often land like this, or they'll land like this, or they'll land like this. Like this one was obviously 4x6 and I cut it down because I wanted more room. Or like this, or like this. I will say I often do it on the left side. I don't think I have nearly as many examples, but the right side vertical is very difficult for me. I don't usually do that. It's usually the left side's the vertical photo, only because I think that when I put this into, or when I picture putting this into an album, I often picture it on the right hand side versus the left hand side. And if it's going to be on the right hand side of an album, I want the weight to be on the left hand side. But if it were on the left hand side, so like for example, if I was putting these away in albums, I'd put them like this if they had to go next to each other, because the base weight seems to be on this side and seems to be on this side. I just like the verticality within the center of the album, which again, that's probably a whole other thing of design that I don't even understand yet. But L shape, really, really simple. As you can see, I have some clean and simple layouts. I have some super crazy layouts. I think this one's the most evident of the L, mainly because it also flows into these and into this, really evident. And I don't think I have any examples where the paper actually, or the background papers flow into an L other than this one. So you can have 1 strip of paper going this way, 1 strip of paper going this way, L shape, and you could put 50 photos within those sections, and it would still be considered L shape. So think about your layouts. Think about, do you often have one vertical, one horizontal? Think about if you often run paper this way and this way. Are you creating T shapes? Are you creating L shapes? These are natural shapes that we look at every day, but we might not be realizing that we're using them as part of our layouts. Again, some of these are harder to identify than others, and it's totally up to interpretation and what you do on your pages. I pulled this one out as an L because I thought it could look like an L. We have a strip running this way, and then the photos run upwards. Is it an L? Is it diagonal? Totally up to you. Again, I don't have diagonal in this series, but it's 100% easily a design type that you can do as a go-to design, especially if you're like me and do things like this, which this is a really old layout. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but could easily be diagonal, but it seems to ignore this section, so I think L shape's the way to go, man. That's just what I think. And I think this one's also very evident of the L shape. But that is it for this layout share for L-shaped designs. I will say I do this a lot, and you guys probably notice that I do it a lot, especially when I have a 4x6 vertical and horizontal. It just happens that way. And I do try to mix it up. Like this one's kind of mixing it up because I know when I started this layout, I thought they should be right next to each other, and then I found a sketch that didn't have the two photos right next to each other, and I used that. But I hope you guys found that you do this with your photos, again, with the vertical and the horizontal. And if you do, let me know in the comments down below, or let me know if you have a different design for when you have one of each orientation of photos. Let me know which one you guys think, if there are any that aren't L-shaped, like if you think they might be considered something else. I have a lot up my sleeve for this series, so I hope you guys are excited. And again, the process videos will start very soon, next week for this. I'm gonna put that there for the L-shaped designs for process videos. And if you're interested in seeing the real-time process videos, you'll be able to find those over on my Patreon, so you guys can get a little bit more in depth with how I make L-shaped layouts in this case. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this layout share and this go-to design share. I had fun going through my albums and picking some out. I don't really want to go back and add these back in, but that's something I'll have to do after this video. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!